All right, everyone. So in this quick bite, we're going to walk through those 7 quick win design tips from making over a chart from the default chart to a dazzling chart. Okay, so this is how the chart is going to be set up. This is the data that we're pulling the chart from our connection to nature scale questionnaire. It's the percentage of people who agreed to these statements, kind of like on probably a Likert scale or something. So the people who agreed were the people who said agree and strongly agree. Pretty common technique from what we do. I went ahead in Excel or PowerPoint, I created a column chart just like this. This was the default chart that it gave me. So the first thing I want to ask myself is this an accurate representation of the data? And I go right to that axis right there. It starts at 66%, goes up to 86%. This is a column chart, so I know that it needs to start at 0. So let's go ahead and make it start at 0. Now you can really see that the representation of where those bars or where those columns end up is much more accurate than it was before. And I think that's going to be pretty good for accuracy. I'm also looking at the designation of every 10%. I think that's a little bit overkill. I want to simplify this chart a little bit. So I'm going to go to every 20%. And that's going to look really nice. Gives me a little bit of breathing room right there. I like it a lot. Let's go ahead and look at the font. I think this is Calibri. I don't want Calibri. I want my own custom brand font. I'm actually going to use Microsoft's new font, Aptos Narrow. It's a really nice condensed font, and we want a condensed font for charts. So that's pretty good. I'm going to switch it right there. But the thing that's more glaring to me is this 45-degree angled text. We don't want the 45-degree angled text. We want it to be horizontal. So in this case, I might actually have to change the chart type from a vertical chart to a horizontal chart. And let's go ahead and do that right now. It looks so much nicer that way. The other thing with text is I see this center aligned and centered and center aligned title. I want that to be in the left hand corner, and I want it to be left aligned. So it looks nice and clean. It's really easy for us to read. Let's think about the data order here. There's no intentional order behind the rating of these items. So let's go ahead and order these from greatest to least. And now in my as I read this, my reader is going to be able to understand what the highest rated item was and what the lowest rated item was pretty quickly. The other thing I'm looking at here is this width. These bars look really tiny and skinny, and there's some width between those bars. That's called the gap width in PowerPoint or Excel. We can actually play with the thickness of the bars to fill more of the plot area with the data, and so I like to do that. It looks a lot cleaner when we do it like that. A nice chunky bars, I think those look good. Now we look at the legend. Do we really need this legend? I don't think so, because it's just showing us one thing, and we can actually put that either in the title of the chart, or people will just know that that's what they're looking at. So if we wanted to have a little annotation or a subtitle or something like that, we could add that up here and just say this is the percentage of people who agree and strongly agree, or we could add it down here. We could add it somewhere, but make it look a little bit nicer than that default agree legend. We don't need that in our chart, okay? So I'm going to keep that on the bottom for now. The color actually looks good. I think that it could be a single color blue like this. It's a custom blue. It's not actually Microsoft's default blue, but I think we might want to start with gray. You could start with gray and just mute the whole thing and see if there's any stories that pop out to you right here. If you wanted to highlight something with an action color, maybe I was most interested in the number of people who would agree to this sense of awe and wonder item. I think that makes a lot of sense if that's something that you want to highlight in your data. But I think I'm okay with just the blue. The blue looks nice to me. There's nothing wrong with that blue, and it's just keeping a nice consistent color. There's no like rainbow palette going on here or something like that. So that's nice. The other thing I'm looking at is the lines. Are there any unnecessary lines? These grid lines are right here. These are the default grid lines I get. You know, I don't think they're actually too dark, but you might want to mute them just a little bit more, make them one shade of gray lower, or maybe we could consider getting rid of them. If we do consider getting rid of them, then we're going to have to add direct labels. And so I'm going to add labels to my bars, and this way there's no estimation needed. I just can actually see the values of each of the bars. But if I have direct labels, then I don't need the axis. The axis labels become redundant in that case. So we're going to go ahead and just get rid of it. Now this chart looks really nice. But is there a key takeaway to my title? Connection to nature scale, how much do you disagree or agree with the following statements? That's the survey question. That doesn't tell me anything about the data. So let's go ahead and try to make a more interpretive title from these data. The majority of program participants reported strong agreement across each of the connection to nature scale survey items. Probably not the most revelatory of titles, but it gives you an idea of the type of title that you might want to think about for your chart. And you can see that I moved the subtitle up there to the top underneath the title. I just felt like maybe it looked a little cleaner to put up there now instead of being at the bottom. So here's our before and after. Don't you think that these look so much better just using those 7 tips, those 7 bare minimum tips for formatting charts to make them the clearest, most effective charts that they possibly can be? In our next section, we are going to talk a little bit through a data viz critique and show you a few examples of charts and some things that I might do differently in them. So stay tuned for that.